discuss not only the changes to the transit system, the growth and development of the region, and changes to the region and approach to affordable housing and equity. And Governor, I'm going to turn it over to you first.
I say again and again, one of the reasons that Denver became a magnet for millennials, if you go back over the last 15 years, we are, in every one of those years, we've either been first, second, or third for millennials. There's no other city that's always been in the top like that. They kind of cycle in and out. And a big part of that was we made the commitment to do fast tracks. Tied into that, we focused simultaneously on transit-oriented development so we would have affordable housing in sufficient density close to all these new stations so that we get maximum benefit from the investment we were making. And I can't tell you how many young professionals, and these are the kids that are they're entrepreneurial in nature. Technology is second nature to them, so that they're going to create the companies and create the new jobs. And they don't want to have two cars. They don't want to spend a lot of time commuting. They don't care about as big a house or as fancy a car as maybe the previous couple of generations. They're really focused on a mission. They want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. They want their company to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. And they really see the value of building out smart cities, of having transit and connecting housing there and really being sustainable.
Yes, so we've been so fortunate to be expanding as we have been ever since 1994, when we originally opened our very first light rail segment. Was only 5.3 miles, and then of course we were able to add our southwest extension, was about 8.5 miles, and that was all before 2000. But as you see the numbers that Maria went through, we've just been through a pretty tremendous cycle of infrastructure investment. But some of the interesting things, back in about 2002, we opened what we call the Central Platte Valley Spur. And this was a line, it was just a couple miles, but what it did is it connected our current light rail system with all of the sporting events venues. So with the Bronco Stadium, with our basketball and hockey arena, and then also with our baseball arena, and the connection to Union Station and Lodo, in which the governor was he and his colleagues were such pioneers in starting that area. Well, this early on transit connection really helped the development in that particular area. And then fast forward a few more years, we partnered with the Colorado Department of Transportation, and this was a very unique relationship. And we were able to do a design-build project with CDOT being the primary agency and RTD being the deputy agency. And we were able to do that successfully because we were able to co-locate all of our staffs and all of our teams. And it's really the first time that we took on a venture like that. And there were some of us, including myself, that maybe had a little bit of skepticism as we began, because we said, how are we going to make this work? But what I really like about it is it was very successful, and we like to say that yes, think about these kinds of partnerships and relationships, because they can work and work very well. It's interesting on the southeast line, or we had nicknamed it T-Rex, the Transportation Expansion Project. When we were doing some of our earlier lines and we were talking to developers and communities about transit-oriented development, it was really hard to get them interested. But as we started to do the T-Rex project, it was, the community was out really right with us with the transit developments, and as a result, there's so much economic development that has occurred along that southeast line. It's pretty dramatic and pretty incredible. And then a few years later, we were able to get, with the support of all the Metro Mayor's Caucus and all the other communities, we were able to get Fast Tracks passed. And Fast Tracks is about a $5.5 billion transit infrastructure investment that of course, we started in the early stages in '04. And then, of course, we're still building some of the Fast Tracks projects out now. 6 new rail corridors, a new BRT line, the whole redevelopment of Denver Union Station. And if you were able to enjoy the reception last night, you got to experience Denver Union Station and see all the development that's happening around Union Station. We estimate there's about $3 billion worth of private development happening around Union Station. So it's just really incredible, very spectacular. And in about a 14-month period, we actually opened 4 transit corridors, starting last in January of 2016 through February of this year. So 2 commuter rail lines, a light rail expansion, and a bus rapid transit extension. And so we still got a couple more things under construction. we're working towards opening over the next couple of years, and then we still have a few more projects where we need to find some funding to complete the Fast Tracks program. But it's been a lot of investment, and it's just been very exciting to be part of.
Good morning, everyone. So I think I'll start by giving you a quick background of the Chamber. The Chamber was started back in 1867, so this year is our 150th anniversary, by a group of business people who realized that the transcontinental railroad would be crossing through Cheyenne, Wyoming, and they thought, well, if we ever want to be on the map, we better get a rail spurt down to Denver and back to Cheyenne. So they put money together and built that rail spur and created, one of the first P3s in our country's history, and certainly in the history of the West. And as a result, nothing against Cheyenne, I think it's a wonderful town, but it's really put us in the map, and I think got us moving forward to where we are today. And so transportation remains a key factor, a key pillar for the Chamber, and what we consider necessary for the growth of the economy of not just Denver and the Denver region, but the entire state of Colorado. We believe that without being able to move goods and people across our regions, from home to businesses and across the state, we can't really grow our economy if we don't do that efficiently. And so you've heard the governor and Dave speak about, and Maria talk about Fast Tracks. The Chamber was one of the first organizations to put money in, and which was used to leverage additional funds to fund those campaigns. We've also have been hugely involved in the growth of more public-private partnerships, like the US 36 corridor, like the A-line, like a number of others, Denver International Airport. There's many to name, and we'll continue to promote that kind of partnership because we believe that that's how you can grow. The governor spoke about opposites, and so to get at what Maria said around unemployment, it's wonderful to say that we have, the lowest unemployment in the country, or near the lowest unemployment in the country. But at the same time, when you consider large corporate relocations, like the one that's been talked about for the last week, it seems that's all I hear about, Amazon. When large companies look at a region like ours and they see low unemployment, they get a little bit concerned. They're wondering, are they going to be able to find the labor force that they require when they make a large investment like they're looking to make? So for us, making sure that we have a labor force that's readily available and well-trained is key. We do that by partnering with the school districts, with our higher education system, to make sure that we have those workers available. And then, as I said earlier, the transportation piece is crucial to make sure that folks can move from home and across the state and to work.
I mean, I think that it's absolutely fabulous that our Denver metro area has experienced such tremendous economic growth, and we're all in favor of that. It has many, many wonderful repercussions. But I think it's important in this conversation, especially, and with this audience, to recognize that terrific light rail development combined with rapid economic development doesn't necessarily benefit everyone. We would like to think that the development of the light rail system throughout the city and county of Denver has had a wonderful impact on the neighborhoods that it has gone through. Many of these neighborhoods are low income. They have lower quality housing. They have people that really need access to the light rail and the interconnectivity of the buses to get to work, to get to school, and to get to the places that they need to go, including health. Unfortunately, because of the combination of the increase in the number of people coming to Denver, which has caused a real tightening of the housing market, housing costs have gone up. And today, the average rent for an apartment here in Denver is $1,400. So people are not only experiencing higher rent, many of the landlords that own their homes are deciding to sell because of the value of those properties, so they're getting displaced into other communities where they can't necessarily find affordable housing either. Even if they own their own homes, the cost of those homes is increasing. And so one of the things that I do commend Governor Hickenlooper when he was mayor, he helped start the Denver Transit-Oriented Development Fund, which then became the Denver Regional Transit-Oriented Development Fund, TOD Fund is what we call it. And the Denver Foundation participated in that along with several other foundations and financial institutions. And what it did ultimately was create a fund of $24 million to preserve or create 1,200 affordable housing units in these transit areas, and also to create $100,000 square feet of community serving retail space. And I think that that was absolutely critical. It was one of the first of its kind such funds in the country, and had it not been for that very forward-thinking effort, we wouldn't have some of the housing near transit that we do today. So that's been wonderful. The Denver Foundation was also key in creating a program called Mile High Connects, which currently is housed at the Denver Foundation. And Mile High Connects brings together all of the partners in the community at the city, state, foundation level, and also financial institutions to really address the connectivity between transportation, housing, education, health, and jobs. And that platform has been critical. For us, it's very, very important to engage community voice in this conversation. These are the people who are living in these neighborhoods and in these communities that need transit desperately in order to get to their lives. And we want to make sure that they have a voice at the table and make sure that these light rail stations are being developed with them in mind, because they are the highest usership of RTD. And then the third area, I think, has been policy. It's very, very important to make sure that we're thinking carefully about policies that affect these developments. And a real achievement recently was with the City and County of Denver created a $150 million affordable housing fund. Now that's terrific, but we all know what the cost of housing is these days to preserve or create housing, and $150 million still is just really a small amount compared to the need for housing. So those are three of the things that the Denver Foundation has been a part of to help ensure that there's community voice in this conversation, that neighborhoods, especially low-income neighborhoods and neighborhoods of color, are being considered, and that we're thinking really carefully about the investments and the policies around making sure that transit is affordable and accessible to everyone.
Governor, would you like to discuss anything additional the state's looking at in terms of workforce development throughout the state?
In terms of affordable housing, affordable housing is the housing we built 50 years ago or 70 years ago. It's smaller, hasn't been well kept, and it's therefore much less expensive. When you start really growing, and you see this everywhere where you have real growth, that housing gets displaced. In other words, middle-class people who have better jobs buy it, fix it up, expand it, and suddenly there's this kind of compression effect where there's less and less available for low-income families and individuals. And one of the great things to recognize when you're facing this, and everyone faces it, it's a difficult challenge, but it's a necessary challenge when you're growing rapidly. It happens everywhere, so you shouldn't, don't pull your hair out. But recognize, as the Denver Foundation has, that you don't want to build whole new communities of concentrated low-income housing. What you want to do is leverage your investments, and you kill two birds with one stone. When families are trying to pull themselves out of poverty, one very, very strong supportive mechanism is to make sure that they live in a group with, there are other low-income families there, but it's not concentrated. In other words, that they are, as I said before about friendly friction, they're rubbing shoulders with middle-class kids at school, that the in terms of socioeconomics, that the communities are as integrated as we can get them. And I think that's a big part of what we've been trying to do, especially in Denver, but really through the whole metro area. It's a big part of it. Now, in terms of the workforce development stuff, we're doing several things. I'll just tell you about one. We kind of modeled a program. We've now done 2 years of pilots. There's a local business person named Noel Ginsberg who has worked so hard on this. He's probably worked 4 years. I'll bet he's averaged 40 hours a week. I pay him $1 a year. Well, actually, I doubled it. I paid him $2 and then doubled that, and now I think I'm supposed to pay him $8 this year. But this is a apprenticeship program that is modeled on the Swiss and the German and the Swedish system, so that kids, let's say, instead of going into their junior year in high school, they choose to go get a job. But they only work 3 days a week. They get paid $10 or $11 an hour. Most of them still live at home. And then they go, they work 3 days. And this is not like being an electrician or a plumber. They're working at a bank or an insurance company, an aerospace company, we're working right now on 10 different professions and industry sectors. But they'll go work 3 days a week, and then 2 days, they'll go to a community college or to a workforce training center, and the curriculum that they get there is directly designed to make them more successful to the specific job that they have. They're working in a bank, they'll learn the kind of math that they need in the bank, they'll learn the kind of, all the lessons designed by the banking industry. And to me, 2/3 of our kids 30 years ago never got a 4-year degree, never went to college. Today, 2/3 of our kids are never going to go to 4-year college and are never going to get a degree. We haven't changed it in 30 years. We've just pulled back most of the funding that we used to help those kids have choices and good lives. And now we've kind of made them feel like losers. And what our apprenticeship program is going to do is allow these kids to get a couple years. If they do these 2 years of working and then 2 days of curriculum, and keep in mind, they're also learning how to read a newspaper, how to see business trends or international trends that might affect their business, in essence, becoming good citizens. But after 2 years of this, they get a high school degree. They'll have 60 to 70 credit hours towards, if they want to go to a 4-year college, can do it in increments and begin then. And they'll probably, if they're living at home, they probably have $10,000 or $15,000 in the bank if they're frugal. So this is the kind of stuff, you look at how many jobs we're going to need, and not just a college degree, but technicians for. All these technology jobs, cybersecurity, software, gaming, whatever, you need people that can actually write the software, but you also need all kinds of technicians. And these kids are going to be ready for that. And I think it's going to ultimately, just as much as fast tracks or having that transportation infrastructure, it's going to make, if we can pull this off, it's going to make Denver a real magnet for those young people. And again, kind of be a lever point for companies like Amazon when they're saying, where do we want to build our future? Where are we going to want to have a large investment? Well, I think they're going to want to invest in places that are creating the infrastructure to keep a pipeline of talented kids feeding their companies.